Hello, peeps. Please call your teams, your clusters, your planets, because we are going to start in 5 minutes, okay? Okay, friends, I am going to start. I hope you all can hear me well. I hope you all can see me well. And I am going to start, like before the session, I am going to start with the cluster words and how this is happening right now. So if you go to our Instagram, you will see that we already have the podium updated. So congratulations again for Tatooine, because they are like the first ones. Then it goes Naboo, Alderaan, and finally Coruscant. But I want to make a disclaimer to you all, and it's that right now we are only counting like the chairs in the first 12 hours. So if you have your members filling the test and so on, it's super amazing, but you will see these points reflected on the rematch that is going to be on the last day. So right now we are only counting the chairs plus the chairs that fill it in the first 12 hours. So maybe the rematch will change a lot. Like I am seeing the results and all the Yodas can see the results, and the members can change a lot how is this podium going. So that is a disclaimer for you to like understand how are things going. Congratulations in advance to you all, because even if we have here some very different results, like in our spreadsheet, it's very equal and you will see a lot of good things. So now I am going to start with this presentation. So today it's a very nice day because it's something that we as ECBs, and I say we because I was ECB too, are not very used to see in our daily job, for saying it somehow. Can anyone confirm if you can see my screen? I guess it's already shared, right?
Yes.
Thank you. So here we will have today the EWA and the LC principles. And for starters, I will introduce myself for the ones that don't know me yet. My name is Lina Segovia. I am right now the TL for board development. So my team is in charge of all the education cycle to build a powerful network and so on. And for the next term, I am the elected team leader for audit and compliance. So I hope you like me because you will have me one more year too, same as Karina. And the quote that I decided to have for this space was, you must learn what you have learned. And it's that I believe that sometimes we get so used to the routines that we get so used to them. And we forgot to see new things and to discover new things. And maybe there is a nice way to do the things that we are always doing that can bring even better results. So for me, you need to unlearn the things that you already know to get to know more things. About me, I am Colombian. I am alumni of AIESEC in Rosario. I was also ECB chair of AIESEC in Colombia. I was coach of AIESEC in Colombia twice. I was also chair of AIESEC in El Salvador. And besides that, I've been always working in the ICX side, being VP. In that time, IGCDP, that is what it's now known as IGV, and value delivery. I joined AIESEC in February of 2015. I know exactly the date because it was my mom's birthday and I missed her party to go to our local conference. And outside AIESEC, I am a speech and language pathologist, so I work with education, and that's my field. So I work with education for youngers, that is my real work, and for olders, that is my work with you, basically. And besides this, we can start. And please, as Danny and I was saying the other day, we are in the middle of a cluster war, so please change your name for name, entity, and cluster. This example, my name is Lina Segovia. I am, let's say, from AIESEC in Narnia, and my cluster is cluster number 6. So please go and change your name because I don't know them all. And yeah, it's better that way because we are also giving points for attendance. So bring your people to join this call. And now this is how this session is going to work. It's a space of around 30, maximum 40 minutes. I hope. I tend to talk a lot, so I hope I won't like extend the time. Then we're going to go for the introduction, the engage with AIESEC, and the lifelong connection. That is our main topics. And we are going to start with the introduction, and it's that basically those 2 phases that I was mentioning in the beginning are 2 of the 3 phases of the AIESEC portfolio. That is basically the system of programs delivered by the organization. How does this work? Well, the purpose of this system is for young people to explore and develop their leadership potential, preparing them to make a positive impact in any sphere they choose. So basically we have 3 phases, and they are very different between each other, but they have a purpose in common, that it's for young people to explore and develop their leadership potential, and the idea is to, in not very long term, to make a positive impact in their society they are. And how this is going to work? Well, this system includes the explanation and the guidance on how we are engaging the people with the organization, that is the EWA, or the engagement with AIESEC. I don't know why my animations are not working. The engagement with AIESEC. They are also giving us the guidance on the set of programs we, together with our partners, offer to young people, that is the ELD, that is the Experiential Leadership Development, and also the guidance and instructions on the relations that we have with alumni of the organization, that is the lifelong connection. For this session, we are only going to talk about the EWA and the LLC, because the rest of the day and also the rest of the entire content will be based on ELD. And this is very nice topics because it's not very connected with internships itself. And that is like the thing that I was saying at the beginning, that as ECB chairs or as ECB team, we are always thinking about the internship. So we need to start thinking with this new governance system and everything in the engagement with the AIESEC and the lifelong connection. So starting with the first one, that is the EWA, or the engagement with AIESEC. Well, here we have the official logo of AIESEC. Do you see that the entire framework of the system, it's like 3 YOLOs, because they are all very connected. And well, basically the EWA, or the engagement with AIESEC, are all the activities and programs that aim to engage people with the organization and with the concept of leadership development. There are 3 main things. The activities can be global or entity level initiatives. They are recognized as part of the EWA based on the fulfillment of the brand principles, but not only the brand, but also the general principles, and how we as international control board or AIESEC International get to know this? Well, because the MCP should report this on the SOC. So I mentioned that there are activities that can be global or can be entity level initiatives. The difference with the programs or products that we have in ELD is that we have 3 global ones that are GV, GTA, and GTE. Here, we don't have at the moment something that is established to be global. So this can be anything that the entity wants to develop as soon as they are following the principles. And I am going to explain you the principles right now. We have 6 9 principles. The first one is that all of them are powered by AIESEC. So this is very important because it's the way that we are engaging the young people or the people in general with organizations. So they need to know that this is powered by AIESEC. The second one is that they need to be aligned in the brand elements present in the Blue Book. The third one is that it must be strongly and evenly tied to our core organization, like the things that we are doing as AIESEC. That to provide an introduction to AIESEC. So what is AIESEC about? What is the general content? What is all this AIESEC stuff and how I can connect with them? It also must be direct the participants towards our ELD program. So it's like a very good example is how you go to the universities and you try to sell somehow this leadership experience. So it's how they are connected toward the ELD programs, and allow the organization to gain recognition as a leadership development organization. The seventh one is that she'll have a financial planning that results positively for the entity. The I don't know if you know what is this, but this is return of investment. So it's basically that you have a planning of the things that you need to spend or you want to spend to make sure that these EO activities are being profitable for the entity. And the last thing you can receive, or the least thing that you can receive, it's the thing you spent. But of course, you'll provide a positive financial outcome with a clear income distribution, and needs to be reported by the MCPs and the GFP survey and the SOGA with the required specifications. This is important. Why? Because there are a lot of activities that we can do in EWA. I will give you some examples. The first one can be local volunteer. The second one will be the Youth Speak Forum. Another one can be the Global Village, can be global host, can be all of these small activities that all entities do. But right now, before of coronavirus situation, another thing that are happening right now, there are no global EWA brands. Past EWA brand was local volunteer and Youth Speak Forum. Those are the two ones that we were working globally, but they are stopped because they are being reviewed. And if they continue, they will stay in the Blue Book. But all the entities can work on their own initiatives as long as they comply with the rules of the EWA. That was the thing that I was mentioning. If your entities are back with internships, you can have Global Village. You can have global hosts. In some countries, it's called global families. But there are no right now global brands. I think that maybe you can be prepared for there is a big chance for local volunteer don't be run again. Why? Because this is not profitable at all. But one thing that you can expect maybe to come back will be the Youth Speak Forum. That is the talk that is delivered by youth for the youth and so on. So that is about EWA. The only documents that you will see that have information about EWA and about LLC are the Blue Book and the APIP. Besides this, there is no other information, and if you find any other information, you should not follow. And when I say you, it's you are ECB chairs, you as part of a national entity, and you as control boards. Only on Blue Book and only on APIP, you will find guidelines on how to proceed with EWA and how to proceed with LLC. Why? Because these are not specifically the internships we are delivering, but it's the way we engage them to get to them special leadership development. And once you are past of the internship leadership of the experience leadership development. Now we are going with the lifelong connection, that it's basically this alumni association that everyone knows and everyone wants to be part of. So in general terms, like in global terms, an alumni or an alumnus, it's any person that has been part of one of the development programs of the organization and voluntarily joins the entity or global alumni community. So in general terms, an alumni, it's a person that had a development programs meant by the internships or that joined the organization in the way that they wanted. There is a thing here, and that is the global version, but each entity has their own regulations to be alumni. So it also depends on your entity, and I will give an example. In AIESEC in Colombia, you need to ask for a local entity or a national entity to recognize you as alumni. So, for example, in AIESEC in Colombia, you need to be like an honorific member to be recognized as alumni. It's not just that you are part of the organization, and that is an example of different entities and how they are working. The alumni of organizations are legally independent, so they don't belong to AIESEC as an organization. They are the AIESEC alumni organization. And the message that they have, that it's provided by the organization, by the program, by the product, by the initiatives, it's trying to be adopted by the Blue Book, since they are somehow connected, but they don't belong to each other. So yes, they have a bridge, but they are not part of the other one. I don't know if this part it's being clear, but basically there is AIESEC legally constituted and alumni organizations legally constituted. There is a big alumni control organization, and there are the small ones. Like the way they work, it's very similar with AIESEC International and how we work as organization, but still they are very independent. And they also have some principles. The first one is of course, do not harm the brand of image of AIESEC. So the idea for this is that people, after being AIESECers, connect and still connected with the organization. But the purpose is not to be like outside AIESEC to give shame of them, for example. So it's like to keep the purpose and so on. In case the Alumni Association or the AIESEC entity aims to use each other's brand, it needs to be consulted and approved. The AIESEC entity must ensure it is aligned and accepted by the Blue Book guidelines. So if they want to be connected and they want to work with each other, they can use each other's brand, but if Alumni Association works with the brand of the AIESEC in any entity, it should follow the Blue Book lines, the Blue Book guidelines. The activities, programs, and products of the LLC phase must be coherent with the principles and values of the organization reflected on the AIESEC way. The national entity must report through SOGA survey the initiatives being done with the required specifications and information needed. This is why, because once we have the information of the SOGA survey, the ideal scenario, and that it's happening when there are very good initiatives, is that we as AIESEC share with AIESEC Alumni International these ideas to make sure how they can be implemented in a global way. Then we have the activities, programs, and products of the LLC phase must be strongly and evidently tied to the three focuses of the alumni associations. So yes, you are outside AIESEC, for saying it somehow, like official AIESEC. And if you join to an alumni organization, you should follow a path that it's alumni to alumni, alumni to AIESEC, and alumni to the world. So the first one, that is alumni to AIESEC, it's, for example, the things that I am doing, or that Karina is doing, or that Mika is doing, or that anyone that ended the path in a national entity is following to help AIESECers, somehow to support the activities of the local, of the national, of the regional, or the global community of AIESEC. If you go for alumni to alumni, the primary objective is to put in contact and help the members of the alumni community. So for example, I know that most of the alumni organizations are helping alumni as mentoring them, as giving them consultancies and so on. And last but not least is alumni to the world, that it's these activities or initiatives that generally try to create or support activities that have a tangible positive impact in the world. So this basically means these alumni that create companies, that work with companies, and that extend the power of AIESEC in the world. And like the main things that they are trying to do is to still like having this positive impact in the world. And why I am saying all of this to you all, because the ECBs and ICB are allowed to require and review the activities present in the LLC phase in order to guarantee transparency and reduce the risk for both parties. So yes, maybe we are having this EWA and we are having these LLC activities, and if we find this and we found something that is not very clear, or that we know that it's not correct because somehow can affect the brand of AIESEC as organization, or a local entity or a national entity, you and me, or ECBs and ICB as control boards can go there and say, this is kind of not okay, I need to review this. You are completely allowed to do this. And once you want to do this, or you find that this is necessary to do, you have two ways to act. The first one is that in case of disagreement on how you see the concept or something, how they are executing the activities, how they are validating the activities, the coherence between the things that AIESEC alumni and AIESEC as organization are doing that are different, or how they are doing the activities, or any other thing that is related to this in this LLC phase activity, the entities will be required to communicate with the responsible of alumni relations on AIESEC International to try to reach an agreement. So as Ka was saying in the first day, you have the right, but more than the right, the duty to report the things that you feel are not okay. In this case, we should proceed with talking with the responsible of AIESEC International to try to agree on this. If there is no agreement, as ICB, we are going to act and define what is the final decision, for saying somehow. Why? Because we are the governing body of the organization as AIESEC, and we are responsible to ensure customer centricity in our processes. And our processes are not only the internships, it's everything that AIESEC is doing in all of the three phases. And that's why we have the final word or the final way in how to proceed in this disagreement. So that it's very important for you, because this is very, very new, and maybe you are not very used to this, but you need to start paying attention to these kind of things. And the first thing you need to know, and it's a call to action for you, like the homework after this session, is that go and talk with your MC responsible, go and talk with your MCP and see what are the activities or what is the connection that you as national entity have with any alumni association. Because yes, in the past, maybe they were very distant, but right now, we are not the same, but you need to start paying attention and start controlling if the things that they are doing are correct or the things that they are doing are not correct. And if you believe by somehow, in some way, they are not correct or they are not very good for the brand, of course, if it's true and so on, we need to proceed and we need to start paying attention to what is going on. So that was the session that I was delivering to you. I don't know if there is any question. This session was very, very quick. Why? Because the thing that I was saying, it's not very a lot to talk. Because why? First, in EWA, we don't have global products established. We don't have global volunteer, we don't have global talent, we don't have global teacher. We used to have local volunteer that is being reviewed, and we also have Youth Speak Forum that is also being reviewed. And they are kind of stopped because coronavirus, and because these events tends to have a lot of people together, because it's a conference, or it's like an immersion of having a volunteer experience, but they are being reviewed. You can still proceed with Global Village, you can still proceed with Global Host if your countries allow it to. And they also need to be powered by AIESEC. But you need to still taking care of these activities, because they are not far away from you anymore as ECB chairs. And I will give another example. Generally, when we have these global villages that can be in malls, that can be in the parks, that can be universities, there are some show-offs or cultural stuff or food recipes and so on, but they also tend to include, for example, a lot of alcohol. So start paying attention. What is the real dynamic behind this? It's to share how the culture of the country is, because if that is the case, it's okay, because AIESEC shows or provides a multicultural environment. But if it's an act to give a taste of national alcohols and getting people drunk, or something that is not very AIESEC, what is the purpose of this? And you as ECB chairs have the entire right to control these activities. That for EWA. And for ALC, well, it depends, again, because this is not very connected with AIESEC as organization in terms of activities, because it's not something that it's very well structured. It depends to another legal constituted organization, but you still have to track that. So the first thing that you need to do after this is to see what are the activities that you are doing in EWA. Right now we are in COVID pandemic, yes, but a lot of LCs and a lot of MCs are trying to have activities to reach people that it can be virtual, it can be physical in some countries that don't have lockdown anymore. And also to see with LL principles and LL activities, what is the connection that my entity has with any alumni association, because they are different in each country. So I don't know if some of you had any question. I see a comment here. Will that also include Instagram accounts for LC? I don't get this question, Gwyneth. Can you explain it better? You can turn on your mic if you want.
Amazing. I just meant regarding like engagement with AIESEC, because you said like regarding alcohol consumption and all that kind of stuff, since we now have a motion for it, but beforehand LCs had their own account, like Instagram account, and we're kind of like promoting through that and had like also alcohol involved, but that's not active anymore. But I was just wondering if it's like actual like projects, like bigger projects, events that are being planned by the MC, or if it's also like the smaller things.
They can be like defined by the MC or the LC, because these initiatives can be according to the MC or the LC, because the main point of this, like besides empowering people and so on, is to attract them to the organization. So it can be related to the reality of that each entity has, even if it's local or if it's national, so that depends on them, as soon as they all are following these 9 principles. If they are following this, then they can proceed with it. About the Instagram accounts, there is no problem, because like if you go to the Instagram post that they always have, okay, they talking about alcohol stuff, they can bring some things, but okay, the alcohol, it's not something that it's I don't know, forbidden in the entire world. Some countries are not very happy with it, or that forbidden it even, but it is related with the culture also. My point when I was mentioning about alcohol stuff, it's when they, for example, turn Global Village into super wild parties, when the only goal is to get drunk. So where is the purpose of the Global Village then? So that it's like an example. And that it's about that. Besides any Instagram post of everything, okay, it can promote the countries, can promote the, I don't know, the national drinks. Like if there is nothing that its only purpose it's to like damage the brand somehow, then it's okay. Yes, the responsibility regarding LC. The first one is that you need to know if your entity is connected with an alumni association and how is this connection working. The second one will be start seeing or indaging what it's like in the website of them, how are they promoting the lifelong connection stuff and so on. And if you see that everything is not okay because it goes against or of the principles that LC phase has, or the general principles of AIESEC, because they need to be connected with the AIESEC way and all the things that as AIESEC we are doing, then you need to report it. That is like the main thing, like paying attention and trying to understand what is the real connection with the alumni and the entity. We are by the end of the session, so you can ask all the things that you want. I guess we still have, Mappy, how much time we have left? I'm sorry, I told you I lost the time track. What do you mean by entities using each other's brand? Okay, this is, for example, when, okay, each MC and each entity has their own branding, right? And also as AIESEC International, we have our own branding. It can happen that the alumni, I don't know, by any reason, wants to follow the branding of the national entity because they are connected, they want to improve relationships or so on. If that is the case, all the branding that they should be following needs to follow the Blue Book. That is the mean. For example, even if they are alumni and they are going to use the AIESEC logo for somehow, because it's a meeting when you have the AIESECers and the former AIESECers, and you are using the AIESEC logo, it needs to be the logo that is in the blue book. It cannot be like very wrong. It cannot be in other color, cannot be a stitch, cannot be a stretch, cannot be very wide, cannot be very like small. That is the difference. And that is great. So that is the session that is going to be over about the EWA and the ALC. As I was saying in the beginning, we are going to have more sessions about the ELD, and I will call my beautiful and amazing Colombianisimas, other team members in my BD team that are Vale and Mappy. So they are going to continue with this. They are super energetic. I will allow to share this. This session, it's not over. And even after Mappy and Valley session, we are not over. We are going to have a little break after Mappy and Valley session to end with Shenolos, that it's another of my babies, that it's elected TL for CS, that he's going to end with a session. So today it's going to be a little bit longer, but not that much. So I will allow them to share a screen. I will stop sharing mine. If you have any other question about anything, you feel free to reach me. Or wait, I need to make Mappy or Vale, co-host. Mappy, right? Okay, Mappy Ibanez. Make co-host. Make co-host. You are co-host, I guess, yes. So thank you guys for your time and for your questions. Feel free to reach me if you need anything else. Now I give you this with these two girls that they will teach you how to deliver the best exchanges in the organization. Bye.
Okay, hello everyone. We're about to start the second session for today. So I hope you're super excited because today's gonna be a lot of content, but a lot of important information. So let's go.
Okay, hello everyone. First, I will start to introduce myself. My name is Valentina, but please just call me Vale. I am a team member of ECB Board Development. I am coach of Cluster 4, and very soon I will be also coach for Cluster 5. So let's start Mappy. I am from Colombia. You're having a lot of people from Colombia today. But I am living in Italy right now. I am studying. I joined in 2018. It will appear soon, great. And my life outside of AIESEC, I am a student on consumer psychology. And the quote I wanted to share with you in the spirit of Cluster Wars is, if you're a fan of the series, you will know this is the thing that Yoda said to Luke right before he died. And it's, when gone I am, the last of the Jedi you will be. The Force runs strong in your family, pass on what you have learned. I wanted to share this because the Force really runs strong in all of you as the network, and you are the responsibles. You have all of this responsibility to pass on this information to the rest of the network and to make AIESEC really strong and to deliver our exchanges and to deliver our impact the way we want to. So now go Mappy.
Perfect. So me, I'm Maria Paula, but everyone in AIESEC calls me Mappy, so you can call me Mappy. I'm ICT Board Development Cluster Coach for Cluster 2. First, the thing that I thought I was going to write down there, it was like, I haven't seen a Star Wars. Sorry, I haven't seen any movie, but I look and I just like that quote, so I just put it there. That is, your focus determines your reality. I think it's really applicable for everything. So yes, I'm from Colombia, as some of you already know. I joined AIESEC in 2018. Also, in my life outside AIESEC, I am a chemical engineer. So we are going to talk about all of these things today. This is our table of content. So first, we're going to talk about product minimums for all the products. Then we're going to talk about the exchange standards, and to finish, we are taking, giving you some calls to actions that I think it will be really useful for all of you. So,
okay, so as we're going to start, this is what Lila was saying. So Mapiko, please click. These are our components of the AIESEC portfolio. First, we have EWA, which you already heard about. Then we have the ELD, which I am going to talk about right now. Mappy, click. Awesome. And afterwards, we have the LLC that Lilo talked about. And as I just said, we're going to focus on the ELD. Mappy, click. And click again. No, oh well, okay. The ELD is the Experiential Leadership Development, and it's where we have all of, oh, amazing, okay, sorry. Okay, is where we have all of our products right now. So, you know this better than me. Right now, we have the Global Volunteer, the Global Talent, and the Global Teacher. These are the products, these are our way to engage the people and actually make change in the world. This is what we call the ELD, and this is the part of the portfolio where our products are. Now, I don't know if I did that. Wait, I'm trying to control the... Amazing. Okay, we're going to start with the minimums. First, before saying like the ones specific for Global Talent, I want you to see the ones that have a little star on the list. Those three are common for the three products. Exactly. So these are the minimums for the ELD. We can say that. The minimums for the ELD is we have to include yes the development of skills in a foreign environment, and that is why people cannot do the internships in their own countries but have to do the internships outside of their country because it's developing the skills on somewhere outside of what they are used to. It has to include elements of the inner and the outer journey. This is part of our AIESEC way, so it's very, very important. And the EP must be supervised by the opportunity provider. It doesn't matter what type of internship, it doesn't matter what type of product. Always we need to have someone from the opportunity provider with the EP. That is why on the ELD, if you see, it's not only AIESEC that delivers experience, but it's AIESEC with the partnership of an opportunity provider, of a third party that helps us deliver these experiences. Now, going back to Global Talent, these opportunities have to be related with business administration, finance, marketing, IT, engineering, or business development. If they are not on this if it is not work related to these fields, it is not Global Talent, and we cannot do the internship. It has to be a maximum of 78 weeks and a minimum of 6 weeks. It cannot be less, it cannot be more. We have two types of internships. We have the short ones and we have the long ones. So on the short ones, there will be the 6 to 8 weeks. It is mandatory to cover either accommodation or salary. It is not mandatory to cover both, but the salary needs to be enough for them to cover the accommodation. So this is very important for you to know because it has to be enough to cover all costs of life for the EP to live well during their internship. But when we are longer than 9 weeks, it is not mandatory to provide accommodation, but it is mandatory to provide salary. If the internship is 10 weeks, no, it's not well just to cover the accommodation. We have to cover the salary. And the minimum of work is 35 hours a week, and the maximum is 45 hours a week. This is Global Talent. Now we're going to, Now we're going to Global Teacher. As you can see, again, we have the, okay, I'm not able to use it. Mappy, can you click? Thank you. As you see, we have the 3 ones with the stars as well. So I'm not going to repeat them, but we can go ahead into Global Teacher. The opportunities must be related to teaching. As the name says, there is no mystery there. It has to be teaching language. That would be ideal, but also it can be to teach another subject. The important thing, it has to be a teacher. Here is not minimum of 6 weeks as it was on Global Talent, but the minimum is 9 weeks and the maximum is 78 weeks. Because it's 9 weeks, just as the Global Talent, the salary has to be provided. It cannot be accommodation instead of salary. No, it has to be a salary. Nothing to do about that. And as I just said, the salary has to be enough to cover every living cost, which means, yes, it has to be enough for them to live, for them to find accommodation, and it has to be enough for them to have food and the minimum things that they need to live. The maximum of work, the minimum of work 35 hours a week, and the maximum 45 hours a week. Now, click. Now we're going to the global volunteer. As well, you can see the 3 that are common. These ones don't have to be related to a topic or a field of work as the other ones, but it has to be related to a sustainable development goal. I think we all know that the minimum is 6 weeks and the maximum is 8 weeks. And the accommodation always has to be covered. It's a volunteer. We do not have to give salary, of course, but we need to cover the accommodation. It is good for the opportunity provider to do it, but if it's not the opportunity provider, it can be a third party. As Lilo was saying about the EWA, it can be with a global host, which can be another way to engage more people with the AIESEC. However, it has to be covered. It doesn't really matter how. And here, of course, the minimum is a bit less. The minimum works per week is 25 hours a week, and a maximum is of 40 hours a week.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Vale. So right now you in your homes, you should be saying, okay, but what do they all have in common? All the programs, all the products. And we can be like this. And it's this. We all know this. We have seen this picture since we first got into the organization, and it's the exchange standards. Those are the most important thing. Why? A standard, and basically the exchange standards inside AIESEC is the level of quality of our programs. That's how we know how good or how not so good it was. So we have 3 groups. The first one is preparation standards. We have 8 standards. I'm just gonna be like super quick with this because I guess we all understand it completely. There are 8 of them, and they all have to happen before the first day of work. So basically before the experience starts officially. Then we have experience standards. We have 7 of them, and some of them are going to happen at the same time. Some of them are going to be separated. For example, the party support, that is like the one that finished the experience, the last one for the experience. And then we have the post experience standard, that is just one. That is basically when the experience is finished and the AP is already back home. So why is this so important? Basically because this is why we have the completed status with our APs. Why? As you know, the completed is basically the realization plus the standards. You know, we have 16 standards, and basically we just have to cover 14, at least 14 out of 16. Why? Because some of them are not mandatory, but we all know that we need to follow and we need to accomplish 14 out of 16. And why is this important? Also because of the response rate. The response rate is basically what gave us the completed. So it is basically a connection of the response rate, the survey, the standards, in the collaboration of hosting entity and identity, sorry. And basically it is important for everything. So right now, why and how to know if my entity is delivering the experiences right? And that is basically because of education. Education is the best. We are here educating. You are educating us. Everyone is educated. So education is really, really important. And also the audit system that can also help you to understand, to know that they are delivering everything correctly. So basically that's an on-repeat cycle. You just have to keep educating, you just have to keep auditing, and that's how we can make sure that what we are selling is actually being accomplished and the EPs are actually enjoying the experience. So one of our calls to action is set an education cycle. Some of you don't understand, or some of you are have knowledge about education cycle, but basically I'm gonna give you basic steps, just the basics. The first is to define what kind of education cycle. The second is to understand what the attendees need. So you can do a survey, you can do a consultancy. The point is to understand what are they in need. Like, hey, I don't even know what is exchange standard. So you know that you have to educate it on that. Set a timeline, goals, and KPIs. An education cycle is not something that you can deliver by tomorrow. So you need to define a timeline, and you need to define what are going to be your goals and your KPIs. For example, my KPI, 30 people, 40 people, whatever. Set a platform, of course. You know that for example, we use a lot Google Classroom. I really like it. Some people use YouTube and they just upload videos, or some people just documents. Develop the content, that is basically create, if you're going to do a video, a movie, a comic, whatever you want. Promote the education cycle, because if you don't promote it, no one's going to attend. And then deliver, of course. And the final step is basically test the attendees, because you need to know if they understood, if your education cycle was well delivered or not so good. So basically these are the steps for the success of every education cycle. You know, we always got you. We always got your back. So you can go to this link. And in this link, you will have the outputs for BICO. That was the conference that we did a few months ago. And in that conference, we gave a session about how to deliver an education cycle. And you can find like all the steps and all the little baby steps in between the big steps. So you can go there and check more about what does it mean every little step. So you can go and create your education cycle.
However, of course, we're not going to leave you just without any tips, because I know that you have to start doing these education cycles by now. So our first pro tip is the types of education cycle that exist. We can divide it in two groups. First, internal or external. The internal is the one that I am sure if you are an ECB chair, you have already started with your team, if you have a team now, that is educating within the team. So if you're an ECB chair with your members, if you are an MC with your ECB chair or with your MC, that is an internal education cycle. And then there's the external, which you have to start doing, of course, which is the education cycle you give to your plenary, or you give to your LCPs, or you give to the LCDPs, or whoever your education cycle is intended to. Now we have three types of education cycle. Now that we define if it is going to be internal or external, we have to define which is going to be. We have the summit, we have the education cycle, and we have the conference. So for the summit, okay, now let's start with an education cycle. This is an education cycle because we are educating on one specific topic. And yes, we're having different sessions because we're dividing it, but it is one topic. Right now, we're kind of going out of the topic, which is APIP and AEPP, because we're talking about education cycles, but it's to help you understand how to do one yourself. Now we have a summit. The summit is very important that you have like a really intended target and that you keep it just within your target, because the summit is just not to pass information, but also to construct something together. So we're going to have an ECB Chair Summit. It's a spoiler for you to prepare. And it's just like to get strategies out of the information that we are sharing. And then we have the conference. The conference, of course, also needs like a focused target, but it can be more open and it can be like assisted by more people. In the conference, we don't talk about just one subject like in education cycles, but various types of subjects that construct like one big goal that will be on the conference. And of course, it's longer and it's way more people, and it has to have another things outside of the topic. Okay, that is the types of education cycle. And then we have the platforms, the other pro tip that we're going to give you. This is the most important thing. Make it clear, easy to access, and available at all times. It doesn't matter if you do it physical or if you do it virtually. It has to be available, the information and the outputs for the people to see, for the information not to get lost. Mappy was telling you a bit of platforms that we use. These are some recommendations. YouTube is very easy to use. Also Google Drive, because the information is always there. Zoom, that we always use for our education cycles conference and whatever. And websites, if you want to see, there are a lot of very good examples by your own network. And you have to see, again, the session that Mappy was telling you about in Vico. Now, again, the calls to action. We already got the educational cycle check. The next one is to understand your national reality. If you do not understand your history, if you don't understand like the response rate that Mappy was talking about and everything that composes like your national reality right now, you cannot do your educational cycle. You cannot know anything that is going on and how to proceed. So it's very important. And your third call to action is to start your audit. Get ready to audit. For audit, we recommend you a lot to, Mappy, click. We recommend you to attend the audit session. We're going to have it on the second week. It is going to be one of the most important sessions. Please don't miss it, because audit is going to be so important. If you do not audit, you will not know what is happening on your entity right now, and you will not know if you're doing some things that are not to be doing, or if you have to start to do something. So don't miss it. There you will get a better deliverable. There you will get like a better way for you to start these more tips. So don't miss it.
And also, if you already have an audit system, or if you don't have an audit system, you can either way go to the session, because we are going to deliver a lot of information, basically the AC area. So go, attend, you're gonna learn, or you can see a lot of points of improvement there. So go.
And okay, I don't know if we're going to do questions now, because I saw a question on the chat that it was a lot talked about. Okay, so someone asked if GB excludes teaching. No, it does not. Like, you can have a GB opportunity that is about teaching. As someone says, yes, it's the SDG number 4, which is quality education. The thing is that they are very different internships. They are very different experiences. If you have a global volunteer that is about teaching, it is a short experience. It is like with help of more people. It's going to be on an NGO or an opportunity provider with just 6 weeks. It is not going to be like a job. It is going to be a volunteer. Now, if we're going to the GTE opportunity, that one it's like an actual job. It is going to have a different opportunity provider. There has to be a salary. The job has to be way more structured, because it's not a volunteering experience. It's a teaching experience. It's a job experience. I don't know if it is clear, or if you have something to add, Mappy.
No, I guess it's basically just the specific things about each program that can make them different. So yes, I don't know if you have any other doubt, whatever.
As well, like you can have I don't know, like marketing or a business development or something like that, volunteer experiences. If you have it like under the SDG 17, for example, that is partnerships. They're doing something similar to business administration, to marketing, things like that, but it's still not a GTA. It is a global volunteer, because it's just a different experience. I mean, that's just it. Okay. Okay, so I think we're on time. We can have like a roll call,
5-minute break?
like, yeah, like a 5-minute break. The next session that we're going to have is also very important, so don't leave and stick around. Dance with us if you want to turn on your camera. Mappy, can you put a roll call?
Yeah, sure. Let me just see how.
But you people, you need to turn on your cameras and you have to dance, because if not, I will not dance on my own.
Which one?
This is Tyler. Tyler, with Grammarly's help, is writing an email to his boss, Anita.
Hey guys, this is AIESEC International 1920, and we're here to present our AIESEC International roll call. Please dance it, record it,
Okay, amazing, guys. We will leave you with Cello for the last part of the session.
Thank you, Valen Mappy. Hello, everyone. I'm going to be with you for the last session. Let me just share my screen and then we can start. Cool. So my session today with you is going to be about the product principles and the criteria. Yeah, so I'm Tsenolo Nakedi Mokgweetsi. I'm the ICB Board Development Coach for Cluster 5. Well, not for a short period of time because I have to move to customer support in September. And my message to you is it's not the destination, it's the journey. Many of us were excited and happy that we were elected as ECB chairs and so on and so forth. But the real jewel or the real diamond in the entire experience is the journey that you're actually going to take as an ECB chair. So when you actually look back at the year that you would have spent or the 6 months that you would have spent, the most highlight of your moment will actually be the things that you are doing throughout that entire year itself. But my names are actually in Setswana. Setswana is the language from my country. And what these names actually mean is revelation, skunk, and driver in that particular order. Anyway, like I said, I'm from Botswana and I joined AIESEC in March 2018. I started my AIESEC experience in Europe. So Europe is actually my home. I've never been in AIESEC in Middle East Africa. My life outside AIESEC is that I'm an economics student, but specializing in international trade itself. And today we're going to be talking about, number one, the general principles that we have, product principles, like the ones that affect all the three products, your GV, your GTA, and GTE. Then we'll be moving on to the differences with each of the products themselves, because there are only like a few that are specific to each product. And then we will move on to the criteria for you to be an EP or an OP. And then we will have finally the call to action. I see a lot of like chats here. Okay. Now, so we will start with the general principles for ICX. And like I said, these are ones that affect each and every product that we have. It's not specific to only one or two, but all of them. And the first one is that AIESEC cannot be the opportunity provider. So, or like you have to make sure that the organization that is going to be providing the exchange or that is going to be responsible for that particular project is actually going to be an organization outside AIESEC and not your MC or something like that. Then the opportunity and AIESEC must sign a contract before opening the opportunity on EXPA. So always make sure that when you're posting opportunities on EXPA, the contracts have already been signed, to avoid situations where you post something and that is essentially making a promise to people and saying that the project exists, but then you later find on that you have problems with your opportunity providers and then there's no project. Then all contracts should be reviewed by a lawyer. And then opportunities must follow the latest guideline that we have, which is an annex to the APIP, Annex 8, if I'm not mistaken. And this basically shows you the steps or guidelines that you should follow in order for you to post an opportunity on EXPA. And then your organization on EXPA must be the same one as the real organization. So it shouldn't be Senolo like organization for children, and then like the one that the person is going to find is totally like super different from what they saw on the opportunity itself. So those things have to be in line with each other. Then the dates of the realization on EXPA must also equal the real ones. And when we talk about the dates of the realization, we talk about the first day of work. So only on the day that the person actually went to the place and went to the place where they're going to work and they actually start the work, that's going to be the date of the realization. not when the person flew to the country, not when the person was moving around with you in the city, taking a tour, something like that, only on the first day of work. Then to ensure that opportunities would be more sustainable, OPs must be charged for those opportunities by 2023. MCs are given that amount of time to be able to make sure that they put like the house in order, or they make sure that they align properly with the stakeholders, in this case, the opportunity providers. All entities must have a standards tracker. So Mappy and Vale were talking to you in the previous session about exchange standards, about the importance of following those exchange standards. And it's the responsibility of each and every entity to ensure that they are actually tracking these standards to see the progress that each and every EP is going through. And then entities that are working with a global host must have a memorandum of understanding. The detailed explanation of what exactly should be included in this memorandum of understanding is there in our documents, such as the APIP. And this is where you can see all the information regarding that, if you want to read more about what is entailed in a memorandum of understanding. But if you know that you're going to be working with a global host, this is something that you should ensure that your entity has. Now we will move on to the principles for OGX. And the first one is that an EP and AIESEC must sign a contract before officializing the approved on EXPA. Like, we understand that people want to be making approvals, we want to make more exchanges and stuff like that, but always make sure that the contract actually exists before you even go on EXPA to actually say that the person has been approved. Again, the same as ICX, like all contracts should be reviewed by a lawyer. So it's the responsibility of both the ICX side and the OGX side. And maybe in this particular point, I should highlight that you're having a lawyer reviewing the contracts is to ensure that your contracts are also aligned with the national laws or the national policies, because we shouldn't only be following what the internal policies of AIESEC itself, but we also should be following the policies, the national policies that we have in the entities that we're running in. Then we have that all EPs must have an exchange participant management manager on EXPA. And then all costs must be written in the opportunity. So all the costs that the EP is going to incur, for example, that you know that they need to be paying for example, and stuff like that, these are things that should be included there. Like, do not surprise the EP when they get to a different place or something like that with amounts that they should be paying for that they didn't know about before. HE must add the health insurance. The host entity must add insurance on EXPA before the EP's realization. And then all entities must have a standards tracker. So just like the one about the lawyers, both entities, the ICX and the OGX, have to ensure that they have the standards tracker and that they are actually tracking that very same EP, but on both sides, because it's the responsibility of both sides and not just one of the areas. And then all entities must answer applicants on EXPA. So whether you have rejected someone, whether you have accepted someone, whatever has to happen with the EP that you have done when you're changing the status of the EP, always make sure that this person is kept in communication and that you are making sure that they know about all of these things. So I mentioned that the product policies that we were looking at were for each and every product, but now we're going to be looking at the ones that are specific only to Global Volunteer, and there aren't that many. So these ones are the principles for ICX, because the ones for OGX are mainly the same across all products. And the main difference here, the first one that we will look at, is that EPs can only be charged 30% of the pricing model. And the second one is that the EP must have its majority going to accommodation. So remember in the previous slide, I had told you that OPs must be charged by 2023. And this was actually supposed to be specifically for GV. And this is to ensure that GV is more sustainable in the long run, because currently we are not running like our GV projects sustainably. So of that fee that is going to be charged for that pricing model, however it's going to, the MC decides to do it, EPs can only be charged 30% of it, and the majority of it should be going to accommodation. Because as we know, accommodation is mandatory and has to be provided for people who are going for a global volunteer experience. Then we will move on to the ones for global talent and global teacher. These ones are more or less like the same, which is why they're on the same slide. And again, like I said, we're going to be looking at the ones for ICX, because the ones for OGX are basically the same across all the products. And this is that EPs, number one, cannot be charged by ICX. Number two is that salaries provided must be enough to cover the living costs of the exchange participant. And the third one is that there should be a binding contract between the exchange participant and the opportunity provider. And then if remote feature is applicable, it must comply with the protocol. So I'm not going to go deep into what the remote feature is and how it's going to go and stuff like that. This is something that Lilo will be talking about on Saturday when we have the next day for the onboarding. So make sure that you attend that particular session about the remote feature so that you can understand that more. Now, I mentioned that we would be looking at the product policies and also the criteria. So this is the middle section of the presentation that we'll have today. And we will start with the EPs. Before I even continue with them, most of these things are things that you probably already know, but to make sure that everybody's aligned and everybody's on the same page, we put them here so that everybody knows what criteria should be for the EPs or the OPs. And the first one is that everybody should be within the ages of 18 and 30. And the EP should have read the basic information on AIESEC exchange programs that they are applying for, so that they understand every single thing about that particular program. They should be able to demonstrate language proficiency required by the opportunity provider for the AIESEC exchange program. Because, for example, not all entities would require somebody to be speaking in English or working in English, but there are probably other languages that they use within the organization that they would be working in. They should acknowledge to have the capability to work or live in a foreign country. And they should demonstrate through the application process the qualifications required for the AIESEC exchange program. So on the opportunity that is going to be there are going to be like multiple requirements that they put there and so on and so forth. And the EP needs to be able to show or prove that they have those qualifications that are required, or that experience that has been specified for that particular project or opportunity. Now, moving to the one for OPs, the opportunity provider should be a legally registered company or organization in the country or territory of operations. The opportunity provider should support and respect AIESEC values, mission, and the vision. The opportunity provider should provide an adequate working environment where the EP can execute their job description and develop their leadership capabilities. And lastly, they should be able to provide clear legal status for visa, invitation, and any other legal conditions in the hosting country or that particular territory. And that wasn't the last one. The last one is that they should satisfy all the program minimums. All the program minimums are there in the APIP. And I guess some of these things are the ones that Vale and Mappy had already touched on. Now, I spoke about a standards tracker in the beginning when I was talking about general principles, saying that each and every entity should have one for both OGX exchanges and also for ICX ones. And we have created a standards tracker for you, a template that you can actually use. So this is the link for the Exchange Standards Tracker, which I will open after explaining the call to actions that I have prepared for you. The first one, of course, yes, is to open the tool. And the second one is for you to make a copy for your entity. So please do not like edit that particular tool itself, because everybody would want to, a lot of people would want to be able to use that particular tool. And then you can add any extra things you feel are relevant to your entity. Why am I saying this? We added the things that we felt are basic and like are the basic things that you need, but maybe you may feel that there's something extra that is missing that you may feel is relevant for your entity. So you can do that after you've copied the tool. And then to share it with your team, to share it with your ECB team, and to include it in your education like cycle or plan for your entity and or your team. Why is this important? Vale and Mappy were talking about you providing like education about educational standards, but it's also important for you to like talk to them about the tool, like the process of how you're going to be tracking these standards that you're educating them about, and what they should know, and how you guys are going to be working in synergy in order for you to be receiving this information about the tracking of standards and so on from your different LCs or MC, if they're also providing exchanges. And lastly is for you to track, and track. And before I go on to my thanks, I will just open the tool itself. Okay, not a link. I'll open the tool itself and show you how it looks and what you can find there. So basically this is it. It has your EP name there, and it has like the status from approved to completed. Your home MC, all the countries that we have in AIESEC are there. Home LC, host MC is the same thing. And then we also have the EP ID and EP and opportunity ID. And then for each and every standard, like if an EP has like received a particular standard, all you need to do is just like click on that particular checkbox. But if you're like an advanced user of like spreadsheets and tools, you can add things to allow you to calculate like the percentage of implementation and so on and so forth. I know Moggs is someone who likes playing around with tools. So if you're like her and you want to do something like that, then feel free to do so. So that's about the tool. And this is the link, like I was saying. And that is actually it from my side. I will open the chat to see if you actually have any questions. Oh my God. Cocktails. Anyway. Okay, I will change the settings for the tool to ensure that everybody using an AIESEC.net account can use it. And that's it. I don't see any other questions. I saw that you guys were discussing something else. I think all the questions were answered. Okay. If you have any other question, I will be free to answer them now concerning what I did. If AIESEC cannot be OP, how can the entities that created their own projects IGV do it? They can no longer be carried out, or what can they do? Okay. So basically what opportunity, like this is something that MCs shouldn't have been doing. And according to the APIP now, it's something that is not allowed. So if you have been like having your own IGV opportunities as like MC or something like that, you should try to find an opportunity provider that isn't AIESEC to be providing those like opportunities to the EPs. HE must add health insurance on expert before EP's RE. Does that mean that it will be an host entity standard? I guess that was an error. I think it was supposed to be in the sending entities side, because the sending entities is the one that has a standard for health insurance and not the host entity. And then can we use a standard tracker that is, for example, on Podio and not in a Google Sheet? Yes, this is just a recommendation from us for you to use. And if you have another place like where you track standards, like on Podio, for example, you can do that. The main thing here is that you should have a tracker, and that you should be tracking all these exchanges and be aware of like all the standards implementation for each and every EP that you have in your entity. And then all entities must answer applicants on EXPA. Will there be a limit for EPs for their applications so they don't apply for 100 opportunities? I guess the one about the limit is like a technical thing. I don't know if they will have a limit. This is not a question for ICB, I think. I think it's for the IT people for EXPA, for platforms. I don't know. I don't have an answer to this question. This was another, although I guess they answered it. Can you explain with numbers, EPs can only be charged 30% of the pricing model? I guess the easiest way to, I guess it was answered, but let me just like reiterate again. If, for example, the fee in total is like $1,000 for that particular opportunity or something like that, then like 300 is the maximum that can be charged to the EP. And then the other 70% is charged to the opportunity provider, if I'm not mistaken. And this is something that you should actually, like, that you can actually see in the APIP under the product policies. It's clearly written there with all the extra points about this particular pricing model for GV. Yes, and then there's a reminder to submit your questions on the form, and there you'll have the responses if you don't know now. So I guess there are no other questions. So I guess I'm done for this particular session. Thank you everybody for attending. I don't know if Lilo or Mappy or Vale wants to say anything, or like some alignments for the next session, which is on
Yes,
Saturday.
no, just thank you for attending the session. You already have all the materials in the Google Classroom, so you can go and do the quiz and check the materials there. And see you tomorrow on the ECB's call, weekly call, and on Saturday for the next session of the onboarding.
Yeah, thank you for attending. Remember to participate to win points for your planet. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
People.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.